Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. And AM 630.
Good morning, 6:37 on WMAL. There is a lot going on in Washington, and we're tackling it all right here on Mornings on the Mall. At 7:35, we'll be talking to Larry Kudlow, and he'll no doubt weigh in on this IRS scandal. At 8:05, Representative Jim Jordan, Republican from Ohio, a member of the House Oversight Committee. He'll talk about Benghazi and other things. And then at 8:35, Brian McNally from the Washington Examiner on the end of the Capitol season. It's Brian Wilson alongside Larry O'Connor.
But one of the most talented and creative filmmakers of the last couple of decades is now our guest, John Waters. Of course, Hairspray is probably the most recognizable film. Do you get tired of being introduced with Hairspray? Would you prefer?
No, I'm happy. Of all the many movies I've made that anybody likes, even one of them, so I'm always thrilled. No, believe me, Hairspray did go the furthest. It's playing in every grade school and high school in America. Who would ever have imagined that?
And isn't that amazing? I want to start there. I remember when Hairspray first came out, and did you think at the time when your friend and muse Divine, dressed in drag and played the mother, that it suddenly, 30 years later, was it 25 years later, John Travolta does the same role, John Travolta heartthrob from the 70s, yeah. And it's not only accepted, it's celebrated.
Yes, that's less surprising than the fact that in the schools they can do it now. That in public schools, the drag queen gets the part. Hey, when I went, they beat him up. So I'm really thrilled that times have changed like that. And it is two men singing a love song to each other, which no one ever objects to. So I think it was a sneak attack. I think it's the only sneaky, devious thing I ever did was make Hairspray because nobody noticed.
Well, in Hairspray, of course, at the time, the main storyline was really about interracial couples and the groundbreaking movements in the 60s with regard to integrating television, music, and ultimately relationships. Yeah. But was there always, in your mind, sort of this underlying same-sex relationship storyline that was sort of under the surface?
Because that's the weirdness of Hairspray is the audience knows that Tracy Turnblad's mother is always played by a man, but the characters don't.
Yeah, but still,
it's a secret. No, it's very different because it is a secret. The characters are not they don't think their mother is, a drag queen or any of the proper politically correct terms for today. The mother is a man. That's the thing. It's a secret the audience knows. And that's why I think it works so well, because it's a delightful secret, but Tracy Turnblad doesn't think her mother's a man.
Right, I should think not. John Waters is our guest. And
which means she's blind.
That's all right. It's a big wink to the audience, though, isn't it? And that's part of the fun.
It's a big wink from the audience to the characters, I think. It's a shared wink that everybody finds delightful. Now, people say, why was Peter Pan always played by a woman?
Oh, that's a good question. I just figured it was the acrobatics involved, but you may be right.
No, and it wasn't Peter Pan was butcher, really, then Tracy Turnblad's mother was femme, I guess. I don't know. It's the same principle. It just seems to work. And it's a secret that the audience knows, too, that nobody in Peter Pan and any of the versions of it think that Peter Pan is a woman.
This Filthy World, An Evening with John Waters, that is your show Wednesday, tomorrow night, May 15th, at the Howard Theater, and tickets are still on sale. What are people going to get when they go hear about This Filthy World?
Well, they're going to be excited to hear how they can be a happy neurotic and live with their own neuroses and not want to fit in with anybody else and still no longer want to be an outsider but want to be an insider and win. And I'm thrilled it's at the Howard Theater. I feel like Ethel Waters. I bet she played there.
All right. Well, are you going to actually do a little Ethel Waters on stage?
Well, maybe.
This is an improv?
Divine used to call me that. I used to hate it.
Well, there you go. All right. So the D.C. audience will get something very special at the Howard. You mentioned political correctness there, and I would love to ask you this because, you ruffled a lot of feathers. You didn't do things the Hollywood way, certainly, when you made films. And one would say you offended some people with your movies. Do you worry that political correctness is actually standing in the way of other creative voices these days because there seems to be such an emphasis on not offending people?
Actually, I believe that every one of my films is politically correct, and that's why I got away with it for my particular audience. My characters don't want to fit in, they exaggerate what society uses against them, and they win. they are politically correct. The bad people are punished in my movies, the jealous people, the people that judge other people. Weirdly enough, my films are politically correct.
You're a legend from Baltimore, and of course, recently in the news, I'm sure you've seen the story about the Baltimore prison and what happened there with the female prison guard.
They ought to burn that place down. They ought to not just shut it down, burn it down. But I knew about that. I have friends in jail. They told me stories, unbelievable stories. Everybody knew about that.
Really? So what do you think? Do you think the politicians didn't know about it, or
well,
do you think
I'm friends with all the politicians here, so I'm not going to blame them. I don't know what happened. All I'm saying is that this is not the only jail in the country where it's like that, but it really is out of hand here. You know, I have friends that were in city jail and told me stories about it, so I knew about this.
Would John Waters make a film about that story with all the?
No, I wouldn't make a film about it because No, because I don't know. I'm not in a gang. You know, I guess my Dreamland was my gang. That was our group that made movies. But I taught when I taught in prison, there were gang people, and they just started laughing when I came in. I had no problems with them.
I'm sure. And hey, what is your favorite film?
Of mine?
Yes.
Oh, they all have learning disabilities. I couldn't pick one.
All right. You know, one thing that's amazing, and you look at all the actors who worked with you, you could spot talent really early on. In fact, Johnny Depp, was it his first feature film, Cry Baby?
No, he had been a minor part in Nightmare on Elm Street, but even after that, in Cecil B. Demented, I had Michael Shannon, Maggie Gyllenhaal, and Adrian Grenier before they had done anything.
Wow. And do you just have an eye for this that you can see?
The casting people I work with are great too. Pat Moran, who works with me in Baltimore, and Kerry Barden, who works with me, and so casting people are a big thing, but also because they bring them to you. But I think I'm good at casting. I think it's the most important thing when you make a movie. Are you
getting? The last question is because you have so many other projects going on, and you obviously you're a bit of a Renaissance man. You do things other than film, but are you working on another film? Is there another film in John Waters?
Well, I've been trying to do this one called Fruitcake for a long time, and I still take meetings about it. It's a terribly wonderful children's Christmas adventure. We'll see.
Is Hollywood a tougher place now than it was before?
Oh, Hollywood's always been fair to me. You know, the people that there's less studios that make movies, less people go to independent movies. I don't blame them. They get their job is they get to greenlight 5 movies a year. If they don't make money, they get fired.
John Waters, again, it's The Filthy World, an evening with John Waters, and it's going to be tomorrow night, the 15th, at the Howard Theater. Tickets still available. John Waters, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.